All right. Welcome, everyone, as you're getting connected in and settled and getting your coffee and snacks and whatever else you need to listen to me ramble for the next, I don't know, time. Welcome. This is our bi-weekly or every other week product roadmap presentation where you get to sit with someone from the product management team and take a quick look at what's coming down the pipeline, what we've done recently, and what you can expect moving forward. So my name is Eric Wombrink. I will be the one presenting to you all today. And yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So yes, who are we? Who runs these presentations? You have me. I'm in charge of the engines team, or in other sense, anything that has to do with the core execution of our platform. Or right now, the kind of what we're really focusing on is the deployment server capabilities, the way that you actually take our built entities and move them across your environments and audit and track those. That's me. That's all the stuff I care about. So you see me there before I switch to context and look a lot better. We have Kirsten on the call. Kirsten is in charge of a lot of our UI designer pieces. She's been working really heavily on a lot of new form building changes. So if you build heavily in forms or pages, Kirsten will be the one who has all of the kind of roadmap and expertise there. So feel free to pop your questions in, but she'll be presenting in two more of these in about what was that, 4 weeks from now. So you can join that one and ask her all the questions. We have Josh Lax, who will be joining us a little bit later, but he's in charge of all of our integrations and AI roadmap. He presented, or will present next week, and he's got all the information that you would need to connect to AI vendors and run them as part of your processes, all the enhancements we're planning for the tool itself, so that you can leverage it as like a developer to improve your velocity. Those are the sorts of things Josh cares about, and he's here. Will be here to answer those questions. And lastly, we have Rohit, who won't be on the call today. But Rohit has been instrumental in rebuilding our Flow Builder UI, and the second iteration of that, which is rebuilding the debugging experience for developers, how you test and visualize and see the data going through your flow. I actually will present just a very brief little demo of the latest version of Decisions that has some of those enhancements already in place. But please feel free to still ask questions there if you have any of them. And then lastly, for this call, please feel free to type in the webinar chat. There's a question and answer panel. Happy to answer them live as we go, or I have some time at the end of this presentation for any questions you may have. But additionally, if anything comes up that you can't think of here, comes up after the call, please email us at productmanagement@decisions.com. It spams all of us, lets us know that someone has a question, and we're more than happy to answer it that way or hop on a call to dive deeper into any of the things here. Given that this is kind of an open webinar, we talk a lot of things high level. So if you see something that's really interesting that you'd love to learn more about or dive deeper into, again, just email us there at product management, and we're more than happy to respond and dive in. So all right, let's go through a couple things. First and foremost, why do we exist as a company? What does our product do? What is the goal? And it's been the same. It's actually, we did a little company history presentation this morning, and from the inception of Decisions to today, the goal has always been the same, is that maintaining business logic and the people who have real world needs need a way to be able to organize, orchestrate, and handle all of the logic, all of the intelligence you have to build those things out and maintain them in a really easy to use way with you leveraging, the modern tools and automation techniques that we have. And so that's the goal. We want to be the go-to platform where real people who have real business needs can use all of your intelligence and build into the tools and manage the systems that you need to make your business run and function. And that's the same thing we do today. Everything about updating the Flow Builder and having new ways to deploy them is just so that you can have confidence and capability to build out all of those processes really well. And nothing of that has changed. If you haven't had a chance to join one of these calls in a while, here's just some quick recent history. There's quite a bit more to dive in here. But all of last year, all of 2024, which, gosh, is a year and a half ago at this point, we're already in July, that was focused on releasing, building, and designing version 9. If you haven't gotten a chance to check out version 9, please check out the doc site or our website. There's a couple different resources there we can send you. But version 9 was a huge re-architecture of the way that we group and organize and audit all of your work into like-minded projects. In previous versions, in versions 8 and earlier, if you've been with us for a while, everything was kind of in a big folder tree, and we left you up to kind of manage that and to take care of your own folder tree and permission it as you see fit. It turns out when you try to scale that, that becomes a bit more onerous than we intended. So we've re-architected everything into these discrete projects, which gives you a lot better control and governance and visibility and auditing around those like-minded pieces. And then the second jump from that is turning into 2024. We wanted to take that bundling of your projects and give you a really clear, consistent, and stable way to move that work from one environment to another. So all of this year, at least from a core architecture standpoint, is really focusing around making sure that we get you to deploy your work consistently, and that really we give you a place to do that that's really well built and easy to use. So I'm going to talk a lot about deployment because again, that's the engines PM, that's what I care about. But there's a ton of other initiatives here too. Like Kirsten's working on unifying all of our UI builders so that you can have an easy to use and easy to build kind of UI building experience that seamlessly transitions from screen size to mobile to wherever you may be implementing it, that allows you to do the modern theming and CSS techniques. There's a ton of enhancements there if you care a lot about building UI in our tool. So a lot of our other initiatives really centered around let's reduce the burden and time that it takes people to get in production. We want you to get the most value out of us as soon as possible. And then again, if you haven't seen some recent things that we've done, here's just a quick highlight. And I'm actually going to switch screens in just a moment and share some of these things in the portal. But at 9.10, or in May, we released version 9.10, doing some things that are, allow you to have a better user experience with like Chrome equals off behaviors, being able to quickly sort and organize and clear those kind of filters you have for reports, quick visualization to see who's working on what from a top level view within the portal, and a number of other enhancements and bug fixes that we did in 9.10. 9.11 had a really big flow designer refresh, which I'm going to show you in the portal in just a minute. But 9.11, which actually, oh, my slide's off. It says current. That's actually, I should slide that over to June. We officially released 9.12. But in 9.11, we released the flow designer refresh, which is taking kind of a slightly outdated flow building experience and just modernized it, put some really good, easy to build, step transitions. Dragging your steps over is easier. Snapping them to a grid is a lot better. The colors and themings have been modernized, and I'll show you some of that in the tool. But with the integration side, we did a lot with GraphQL and Parquet. I can never say that word correctly. But anyway, two different types of integrations you have. Parquet, we now have file support for it. So if you need to ingest those types of files and serialize them to data types and use those in our portal, you can do that. And then some other cool things I'll also show you in the portal, like for the UI builder, being able to pre-attach your labels so that as you move and slide your controls around with our new UI builder, it just moves everything consistently and together, and all your styling is done in one place, simplifying your building experience. And then the latest release, we've done a couple of things here again around kind of flow designer and UI stuff. The flow designer, we've been working on the debugger experience, and I'm really excited to show what we're calling step inspection. So if you've debugged a flow prior to 9.12, you will have had to have clicked between a bunch of different actions to see input data to steps, and then click a different one to get the output data and see them not consistently together. Or we used to jam the JSON together. Anyway, we've cleaned up that entire window experience, giving you a much easier way to look and build your flows. And some stuff around AI prompt management and kind of historical tracking there. So I'm going to pause from the slides because I can only do slides for so long before I actually go a little bit crazy. And I am going to hopefully, once I can find the right screen. Where are you? Man, I am failing. I'll just share the whole screen. Oh, this could go. Oh no, stop sharing. What did I just click? Sorry. We're going to cut all of this out. There we go. Slide 2, we're going to share, and I'm going to refresh my screen real quick. I'm going to dive into decisions and just show you some of these cool features that we have. Again, if you haven't seen version 9, this whole portal may look just a little bit different. But let me go ahead and create a new project here. Being on an experimental build, we're getting some fun behavior. We're going to call this demo, new features. Yes, we want everything in it, and I'll dive over here. But this is version 9. This is actually a version 9.12, the latest one that we have. But the few things I want to show you is first the new flow engine building experience. Now, if you're familiar with our flow builder, nothing has really changed. As far as the way that you go search and build steps, we did do a couple releases ago a big update to the way the search categorization and kind of top level filtering up here. But being able to come into your steps, drag them over, you're just going to see we've updated all of the icons, the way that the paths connect. You can now see as you hover over that you can connect to corners, that you can see which side of the flow step you're going to connect to. The lines are going to be a lot cleaner. Just the steps themselves have gotten visually updated to give you some better clarity and information. It might be really hard to see on the screen sharing, but there is kind of a dot grid hiding in the background, which just allows you to line these things up a lot better. So little quality of life fixes, but for people who've built really big flows or robust flows in the past, this is you're probably hopefully really excited about some of these things. And even just like simple little fixes, which I see someone on the call who I know is going to love this. You can actually hold the spacebar now and click and drag your flow around like a normal modern UI building experience. So just some cool stuff there. Just wanted to show it off. But the thing that I really care about is I'm gonna configure a couple of these steps very quickly. We're gonna say this is a log. We're gonna create some data here. You can safely ignore everything I'm doing. We're gonna create some string. We're going to give it a value of hello demo and say save. Because one thing I want to show off that's cool in 9.12 and is a step towards all the new debugger fixes that we're doing is the do step inspection dialog. So once you're in a flow and you click debug, this screen is going to look the same for now, although we are going to be updating this as well to give you some better control. Actually, we did update this. Hold on. Man, I should have had this flow prepped. I tried to prep it right before. Let's input just a input something. My naming is not my strong suit, so forgive me for that one. But you'll notice here there's just some quick fixes like being able to turn on and off input data so that as you're defining sample data or building out testing flows, you don't necessarily have to put in all your values. Again, little quality of life. But as you go forward, you're going to see this new step inspection dialog, which is instead of having to right click and say view input data or right click and view output data, I can just simply click this and see what is going on for this given step. I'll see that in my flow, I've run it one time. If it had run multiple times, these would be tabs I could click through. I could see all the inputs with the quick search or ability to copy, all the outputs, the ability to search and copy, what the results were, and even what all of the mapping data wound up becoming into that step. So the goal is from a single point of view, I can click into any step in the debugger and see what the inputs were, what the outputs were, what it was mapped to, if there's multiple executions, what those were on the side, and just get this ability to see it all in one screen. Sounds like a little thing, is really powerful. And with that, we've done some performance improvements and things as well to improve the way that the sessions are handled on the side. So look to more of these things coming in the future, but I did want to show that one off on this call because I think it's pretty neat. And then the last one I wanted to show, because this was 9.11, this is the attached labels one. There's a bunch of stuff we've done with forms, so I'm just going to show off a form really quickly here, and then let you guys ask a billion questions if you have them. Let's do a demo form. I was going to call it a dumb form, but I won't be that self-deprecating yet. But in the form builder, what's cool now is say you drag a text box over. This is a multi-line text box, and I want to make it bigger across the section. Actually, before I do that, the first thing I'm going to do is give this thing a name, right? So let's call this a description field. You'll notice that there's two options here that when I started typing mirrored each other. This is going to be the data variable name, as in what the actual value will be called when we pass it in and out of the form. And the second is we can automatically add a label to your control and tie those two things together. So previously when we did this, they would be two separate controls that then if you wanted to move, you'd have to drag and drop separately. Now they're tied together as one consistent thing. So say I just want to call it description and I say enter. You'll notice the label is tied to the control, but I have a problem because I put it in a tiny cell and I want to make it bigger. Again, earlier version of decisions, we would get big arrows where you clicked, drag over to this or, click to this cell and click down, and it became problematic. But now you can just drag and drop to fill the space that you care about. If I want to make it over to one column, I just slide this over. If I drug another control on top, it would persist its size. So people who build forms, it's now significantly easier to drag and drop and move these things around, resize them to the appropriate length, whatever you need to do just to make this thing work a lot better. But this label, you don't have to use if you have older legacy forms or you just don't want the label attached. You can turn that feature off. You can specify all of the different behaviors for that label and the gapping and the things such as how you want it to behave in relation to the control. And yeah, just some really nice improvements. Makes it easier to build forms for sure. The last thing I'll tease, but I don't want to steal too much of Kirsten's thunder, is this new layout on the back that I don't have on the default form, but is called Flex Layout. It should be in this version, right? We should have it here. Oh, no.
Nope.
Nah, not going yet. It's coming.
9.13.
9.13. It's coming in the next. Okay, we don't have quite the latest update yet. But this is a teaser for the new feature coming out, which will actually give you proper resizable layouts in decisions forms, where you can specify how your controls fill the space that are on your form layout and how they will stack and move and resize against each other as the screen sizes change. So you can build properly resizing forms, or as you turn on and off things with active form flows, those controls will appropriately shove into the right place and restack and organize the form and even resize the form itself to be the right size. So that dynamic capability that you get with like a modern UI builder, you now get in decisions where you can build it on this flex layout and be able to have the interaction or whatever the user is doing, set the screen size and control width and everything appropriately. It's something we've been striving for a very long time. I'm really pumped it's coming out. And so that'll be 9.13. We'll do probably a big announcement of that, but yeah, cool stuff there.
If I go ahead and just debug this screen.
All right, I think that's about it for the stuff I wanted to demo. I saw one comment come in that said corner connection with a bunch of exclamation points. That's funny. We debated this for a very long time. I love that you love it. Someone in our company, not named the COO or CTO of the company, named Heath, was really pro this, and a couple of us were really against, and so we thought about this. But yeah, corner connections are here. It's there. So I'm glad someone likes it. I'll make sure to let Heath know because he'll appreciate the feedback. All right. Oh, excuse me. Very cool. Let's jump back. I'm going to jump back into my PowerPoint if I can find it. Present. There we go. Oh, okay. I'm still sharing my screen. You guys should still be able to see this. You should just see the PowerPoint. Kirsten gave me a thumbs up.
Yep, you're good.
Cool. All right. Cool. Oh yeah, I didn't have this queued up, so I wanted to show the video of this really as well. In 9.12, you now have the ability to create actions on your advanced data grids that are icons now, or customized, right? So you can actually put clickable pieces in there that will actually run those custom actions that you could do on reports as well. But now you're able to do in a form. So for example, in this case, I now have custom actions as a star and a plus button that will actually execute the action on that data and run another flow. And you saw very quickly in the video, like a pop-up showed to indicate in the video that another process was running when you clicked that thing. So now being able to do that from our advanced data grid just gives you better control and kind of ability to use that advanced data grid in more robust and complex form uses. All right, let's look at some long-term stuff and things that we're doing. So yes, next couple of years, what is our main focus as a product? Obviously this year, as I mentioned before, is deployment. That's why it's half of my list here. It's all around the way that you take work that you've built in decisions and move it up across other environments. That's really half of it, actually. So being able to import user stories and track developer work and request work for them to do, code review their changes at a no-code level, reject those and tell them that they need to rebuild it. Like all of that sort of behavior that you'd expect around software development lifecycle stuff is going to be built into the tool. So where Kirsten's going to make a flow change and commit it, and I'm going to go review it and send it back to her. She's going to make another change. Like all of that's built in. And what's really important to us is auditability. I'm going to talk a lot more about this in some future slides, so hang in there. But the other half of deployment server is all around our container infrastructure. So moving forward, we're going to really double down on containers being the way that you execute and run decisions. And what we're going to give you is the ability to manage and control the scaling and optimization and really the ability to turn on and off all of your environments from a single the single glass pane, location where you can kind of control everything that's going on. So not only can you control your code shipping practices where people are making changes and you're promoting them to other environments, but also you can control the environments themselves. For example, turning on a test environment only when you need to run test cases so that you're not constantly paying for it to always be on. Instead, you can turn it off until you need it, turn it on to run all your tests, and turn it off when you're done, right? Being able to control that from a pipeline perspective, we're going to combine together with code shipping to make really robust capabilities. Again, I have a lot to talk about there, so I'll just look at those slides in just a minute. But as you can see, there's other things we're doing. The flow designer I talked about, we're going to keep iterating on that and making that better. Specifically, debugger stuff and rule stuff's coming up next. Kirsten's working heavily on the unified UI designer, and we have quite a bit going on with AI stuff. Specifically, agents are kind of top of mind. That's why I said it. But being able to both integrate with AI systems so that the processes you're building leverage the most modern techniques, that's a big focus. But the other half of that as well is how do we help you guys, the developers and decisions, really leverage AI to build the best things that you can build. So some of the things you may have already seen, like being able to interrogate your flow from a best practices infrastructure level and provide suggestions. We do that with our PATS system today, where we can actually send you a suggestion or a recommendation that says, hey, we've noticed that you're using a ton of raw SQL steps. Let's hop on a call and talk about that. Something may be a better way to solve this problem, right? We're going to leverage AI to continue to like automatically reinforce best practices and give you suggestions. But that's the type of thing we're looking at. How do we improve the developer experience and the actual in-portal tool experience leveraging AI, as well as letting you integrate with it to pull into your flows and systems as well. And so that's this year. We're focusing heavily on all of that, a lot going on. Next year is going to be taking a lot of that deployment architecture and then starting to kind of ramp it up. So from an engines and environments perspective, a couple of things we want to do is make your container sizes a lot smaller, so that the running environment of decisions is even more lightweight and faster, being able to quickly scale those things so that, say, for example, at the end of month, you need to run 5 million executions of a flow. That's not unreasonable for a lot of our customers, but the rest of the month, you're only running, a couple hundred a day. Well, we want to be able to very quickly see that trend, ramp up your usage or you ramp up your utilization, add more resources to it, add more pods to your cluster to grow as that load increases, and then be able to scale that back down as load decreases at the end of it. But that'll include some things like being able to deploy projects to containers really seamlessly, which includes things like making our data types not have to force compile all the time, but instead be more transactional. And yeah, just a bunch of other stuff as well. So a lot of things going on. Again, I'm not going to dive into every single individual item here. So if you see something interesting, just pop it in the chat and I'll go more into it. But 2026 will be around getting containers faster, lighter, easier to use, and then taking all of those kind of designer improvements that we're making and just making it faster for you to build projects and get them out and live and really get that ROI that you're looking for. Which leads into 2027. There's a number of things that we're looking at to do in a couple of years. I think what sums it up most is kind of the far upper right bullet, which says less development and more configurable designs. Again, with this idea that now that your environments can scale really quickly and perform really fast, and that we can do load-based management really quickly, now we want you to get those use cases in the wild a lot faster. So being able to just flip a bunch of switches or specify a few containers, walk through a quick wizard to build out your flow, and then just go deploy it and have it running right away, is going to be great, because as many of you know, decisions can do just about anything, and it's incredible. Now we want to let you be able to do anything and get some really simple things out the door as fast as possible. So we're gonna straddle that line of configurable versus capable, and try to give you some things that are more configurable. We're already doing a lot of those initiatives now. If you guys haven't checked out the App Store in a while, there's a ton of pre-built, fully ready to go projects with error handling and unit testing and documentation that you can just go plug and play today. or you can download and modify and configure to your needs and run today. We're just going to keep kind of making that a goal for the next couple of years to make that easier to use. Cool. No questions. Looking good. I'll just keep carrying on. Yeah, this is just summarizing what I've talked about. We've been really focused on, I guess health is another way to say this, but health and integrations, the way that we know that your projects and flows and everything you're building are good and kind of stable and ability to deploy well. That's going to be health is something that we're really focused on, and something that is different about decisions that I haven't seen any of our competitors really focus on is we want to be a lot more on the proactive side rather than the reactive side. So yes, our support team has always been great, and yes, our documentation is good if you know what to look for. But the thing that we don't do is try to identify problems ahead of time, and that's hard because no one does it because it's incredibly hard to do. But we're really pushing our R&D hard to say, hey, how can we understand the health of your projects, the health of your environments, make suggestions ahead of time, and eventually get to a point where we can apply automatic kind of improvements to your processes over time before they become issues, right? So this kind of proactive approach to having healthy environments is really critical to the next couple of years for us, and is a big differentiator for us as well. Developer velocity, I've talked about. Deployment, I've talked about, but those are some big themes you see across here. And then big scary chart. Again, I'm not going to go through each and every one of these items. You can actually safely ignore everything in kind of that teal green deployment column because I have more slides on that one. But you can see those themes kind of spread out across the next few quarters about what we're looking for. Oh, I didn't update the slide. It's July 1st, so I've highlighted June because it's June. Pretend that's slid over to highlight July. But you can see some of the things I've already talked about: unifying the UI designer, being able to deploy into projects into containers, being able to manage all of that from within the platform, the deployment server stuff. You see a lot of this in here. And again, take a quick glance, see if anything looks super interesting. I'm looking real quick to see if there's anything I really want to talk about, but I don't see anything super integral. But yeah, good stuff here. Lots of things I've already talked about. I care a lot about deployment stuff, which is where I'm going to get to. Solutions team, again, working super hard to get these things out the door. We do need to update the slide. They do have a roadmap that extends beyond Q3, I promise. But if you've noticed in Q1 and 2, despite a big block of time in March where we had to migrate everything to V9, you can see a lot of things that we did to give you guys those pre-built apps, or to give our customers those pre-built apps. Like one of the really exciting ones, I'm not sure if it's released just yet, but is the theme builder, right? The ability to then, from within a UI building experience, specify all of the look and feel that you want for your entire portal, and then to be able to deploy that quickly on your projects as a CSS file that gets applied, is what the theme builder project does. So now you can download that, run it, put in your guidelines and things that you want your look and feel to look for your forms and reports and pages, and then say go, and that'll generate all of the theming stuff that you need in order to implement as part of your platform. So check out the App Store. It's also at marketplace.decisions.com, and is a great resource if you need some examples or pre-built solutions and those sorts of things. All right. No questions? I don't see any. So give me about another 10 minutes. I'm going to talk about deployment server because I love it and I'm super excited about it. But then I'll pause. We'll give you guys a few minutes at the end to ask any other questions you may have, and then we'll wrap it up. But let's talk deployment server. So I've been using this term this whole presentation, but I've also used the word repository. So what is the difference? What does this mean? Repository is what we have today. So anything that's version 9 or earlier, if you have either purchased a license for or have as part of your ecosystem our repository server, it is your change management server that allows you to be the source control for all of the work that you build. The main thing that it is, though, is that it is something that you check into and check out from every single individual environment. So nothing is really interconnected. It just kind of acts as the source control hub where you can go to it, pull down the latest version of a project, make changes, and check them back up. But then I have to go to the test server and pull down that project, make changes to it, or test it, and then confirm that it's done. So everything's very manual, but it gives you kind of release and version management, change management stuff from that standpoint. What deployment server is deployment server is that, so it's still the repository, plus this idea that that's the centralized hub where we want you to go to manage and control and do all of the activities that you need to do in order to promote your code or to ship your code from one environment to another. So now there's this idea that everything is going to be really tightly interconnected, and you'll be able to, from the deployment server, see and audit and track everything that's happening across your entire ecosystem. So now no longer do I have to log into prod to pull down the project. I can go to the deployment server, see the testing cycles that have occurred, make sure that my release that I want to push out has been approved by code reviewers and UAT tests that run have been approved. And then I can schedule from that server the automatic deployment of that thing out to the production environment. Or I can just click a button and say deploy to prod. So the idea that this becomes your centralized control server for both your code shipping practices and eventually your environment management is what deployment server is. So although it will be an in-place upgrade, you'll upgrade from repository to deployment server, and you won't lose any of the good auditing and things that we have today, the versioning and branching. But it is a complete rewrite of what the repository is. So it's quite a bit of changes. It's super robust, I guess, to say the least. We've done a ton of underlying architecture works over the past year to make sure that we're really stable there. But yeah, just some terminology updates to make sure it's really clear what deployment server is. And then specifically, again, I've already hinted at this, but here's just some slides to make sure that I'm not lying. What is this going to impact specifically? Deployment server first is the code shipping. I've already mentioned this. This is tracking of requests for developers to make changes to flows and rules and forms. This is the ability to run a code review so that as Kirsten completes her flow, that her manager is notified and can run a complete side-by-side comparison with her changes to prod. It's load testing, right? So that I could be able to say, hey, when Kirsten checks in, spin up a brand new environment and run 1 million executions of the flow and compare those load test results with production results, right? It's combining all of those environments and getting those, really modern, typical code shipping or code movement practices in place as part of the tool. Second major focus is that cloud infrastructure stuff. So this is management of containers, turning them on and off, creating these sorts of environments for you to be able to just control from the centralized hub, leveraging all the cool modern container capabilities. That's the second major focus. And then the third focus is kind of spread throughout the other two initiatives, which is this idea that everything needs to be auditable, everything needs to be observable, and we want the deployment server to be the place where you see and get all of that information from one single location, right? So now I can very quickly see what has been going on my test server. Well, my test server was, last week was upgraded from 9.11 to 9.12. We deployed, release 7 of my onboarding project. It ran through all the load tests. They all passed. It ran through my unit tests. They all passed. And Josh decided to reject this user acceptance testing. Oh, and I can see that then that request got sent back to the dev server, right? But just this story and this idea that I can, from the one place, do that level of auditing and performance checking and make sure that everything's working in my ecosystem is the goal, is the focus. So that's something that we're really heavily focused on. So what does this look like as far as releases go? Yes, here's where we are. We're currently in the MVP phase. Which means that our team is still buttoning up and finishing a lot of the core architecture and getting just really simple, kind of in-place UI so that we can test the concepts here and make sure they're really, working well and robust. So the MVP phase is underway, also known as like an early alpha phase. We have some really early access builds we're starting to get out to some internal teams and customers to start to play with. But that's right now. Right now, we're focused on making sure that the core underlying architecture of this is really good. Moving forward, we're going to be looking at phase 1. Phase 1 will be the initial first release of this, most likely V10, although still up for a little bit of debate here. But V10 or phase 1 is really focused around this idea that we want to track user work in the form of user stories, combine those and time box them by this idea of sprints, and then create releases and deployments from the deployment server. So all of the code shipping major things should be done in phase 1. And phase 2 is then going to turn and start connecting those environments a lot more closely and be able to implement some of the testing things that we mentioned. I mentioned this a couple times. We have unit tests today. They're great. But we want to then, completely ramp that up to really the full testing suite you'd expect. So we're going to add load testing where you can specify like JMeter scripts and cycles and be able to go in and say, hey, this flow, when I promote it to my test server, run this JMeter script and run 10,000 executions of it to give me performance metrics, right? And then report that back to my deployment server so I can compare that with the production server. So phase 2 is going to focus very heavily on all of these testing and enrichment ideas. Enrichment being that if I'm on dev, I should very quickly be able to see how a flow behaves in prod and the changes I'm making, and maybe test with prod sample data so that I'm meaningfully debugging my flow with active running flows and data. So connecting all those environments we're calling enrichment and being able to run those all together. That'll be later this year. Most likely we're going to phase in these starting October through the end of the year. And then by the beginning of next year, we're going to be right in the thick of controlling all of your containers, being able to scale those appropriately, being able to create like a scratch instance, like a cloned instance very quickly. Under 10 seconds is the goal, where I can say, hey, Kirsten's a new developer. I'm not picking on her. She's the only one I see. So Kirsten's a new developer. She just got hired. So I'm going to clone my dev server and let her go to town because I'm going to revoke commit access. So I create a scratch instance for her that clones dev, lets her play with it for as long as she wants, and then I just destroy it when she's done. But that quick ability to create these scratch instances, or maybe you want to test an upgrade, right? Maybe you want to say, hey, we're on 9.12, but I want to test 9.13. You could just side by side create the scratch instance of 9.13, clone over your dev, deploy or upgrade in place automatically, and then play with it and destroy it when you're done with it. So that concept of being able to just control all of that is phases 3 and 4 and moving forward throughout the rest of next year. Oh, I forgot I had the detailed slides. Shoot, I had some cool screenshots here. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, just to recap, I won't go through all that again in case you're really bored. But yeah, that's the idea. MVP, core infrastructure, focusing on user stories, focusing on those sprints ideas, being able to then take all of those stories and group them together to a release for your project, and then group all of your releases together to deploy as a single deployment package is all part of the MVP. Now, I will say I do have some like click-through prototypes and some more detailed and screens for this. And so if this is interesting to you and I haven't already scheduled a call, please put in the chat or reach out to me after this, and I'd love to schedule a more in-depth walkthrough of all of our prototypes. I think that'd be really fun. But yeah, phase 1 is taking all those concepts and putting all the good dashboards and deployment wizards and things in place, being able to schedule out those deployments. Phase 1 will, like I said, will most likely be that V10 work. But even from this kind of screenshot you see here, just the really good, clear auditing, interacting with the data. Like one thing we're going to be adding is this new control where I can inline edit a report and just have drop downs and stuff in there. And as I click enter and move to the next line, it commits it to the database, right? Like those new controls, you'll also see in the products, like those are things that you can actually use as your projects, but just some really good data auditing kind of management stuff is kind of out of the box with phase 1 stuff. So that's the big one. That's the cool, exciting stuff. Again, phase 2, this ability to run all the unit tests and combine those with user acceptance manual tests and load tests, being able to run those in batch and audit the results, all of that's coming. Very cool, exciting stuff. And again, this will be towards the end of the year. And then, yeah, I'm going to skip this slide because it's the same as this one, and I like this picture a lot more. But the container stuff is cool. One thing I haven't mentioned is that a lot of questions we get around deployment server are, hey, how does this fit into like a typical CI/CD pipeline stuff, right? Like how do I do sort of continuous integration? And we know that in the future of deployment server, we're going to give you this capability to configure, set up, and run as part of your projects these deployment pipelines, where you can specify the environments that need to get created or interacted with throughout your code commit processes, and then automatically gate those for you, so that say you can run evaluation at each of these interchanges to make sure that your deployment does the things it's expected to do. So for example, when Kirsten commits, we're going to automatically promote that to the test server or create a new test container. We're going to deploy her changes, run all of the load tests, and then run your gate check. So it's not really in my screen here. Pretend there's a little like edit button in the corner. But you'd be able to say, hey, if all of the load tests are at 99.8% of the production performance tests, then automatically deploy to the next phase of the pipeline, right? And then it would promote that changes to staging. Maybe that's a manual intervention. So we stop and wait for user acceptance testing. But you'll be able to configure each of these gates, configure which servers are part of that, how they interact with each other, what the timings of these are, and infrastructure hosting of it is. And then once it's configured, your process is just going to ship through it and give you a ton of benefit in the way that you can just move your work consistently and stably. That can't be the right way to say that. Anyway, make sure that it is stable. That's the way to say it. That's what I'm going to go with. That's curse. I'm laughing. Don't you dare cut that out. Anyway, that's phase 3, container stuff, pipelining. And then again, phase 4, controlling the optimization of those scratch instances, more formally automating that CI/CD from like service calls, so that like a lot of our customers use ADO today, or other sort of deployment mechanisms. We just want to be able to plug into that so that it's part of your code development release stuff, and that we're not an extra onerous burden for like IT ops folks. Ooh, that was a lot of talking. I did get a question in. The question is, will you be able to share the recording at the end of the meeting? Absolutely. We will grab the person who asked that. We'll grab your email and send it as soon as we're done. If anyone else is interested, please put your email in the chat, or send us an email at productmanagement@decisions.com, and we'll be more than happy to shoot that to you as soon as it takes a day or two for us to post it, so you won't get it today. And maybe with the holiday, it'll be next week. So those are like, let me put all my disclaimers in there. But we will definitely send you the recording and even a copy of the slide deck if you're interested. All right, I think this is the last thing I have before I just open it up to Q&A, which is, so what for deployment server? Like I said, we're in the middle of the MVP. If you're at all interested in super early access stuff, please shoot me a note, just productmanagementdecisions.com. Love to talk about this phase with you. We will be doing that kind of more formal beta process targeting August, September time range. So we'll be actually fully beta testing these things out, helping you guys get in-place upgrades, or we can create environments for you. But if you want to participate in the beta program, we'll be asking for some really good critical feedback for these new features, and then targeting an official, hopefully V10 release September, October timeframe. Every other phase I've mentioned here is just going to be additive. Like we're not going to say like, oh, version 11 is container management, or version 12 is scratch instances. No, it's not going to be that. These things will just get slotted in, like you saw with we looked at the version 9 stuff. Like Kirsten's UI changes are getting implemented as they're done. That's going to be the approach once we get the main kind of phase 1 stuff out the door. So phase 1 will come out the door, and then we'll add this control, and we'll add this test suite, and then we'll add this ability to automate this, and you'll see those sorts of things phased in, so that we could be, for lack of a better term, more agile, for those of you who get it, in those practices. So. Sorry, terrible pun. That's for one guy on the call, so he can laugh. He can laugh with me. Anyway, that's the next steps. Like I said, I won't belabor this too much more. But if you're interested at all in that, please let me know. I'm just going to open it up for any questions. If you've been saving them, please type them in the chat or the Q&A panel. If you don't have any, then cool. The last thing I'll mention to you folks is that we're good for a couple weeks. Hope you all have a wonderful 4th. Take the next 2 weeks off. Maybe that'd be good. But for those of you that will be here July 15th, Josh, who just joined the call, will be leading all of the integrations in AI, who leads the integrations in AI roadmaps, will be presenting the roadmap slides and then talking through some of his initiatives. So please feel free to join for that. All right. Last thing here. Oh, I didn't mention this at the beginning. One new thing. Sorry, exciting new things. We will be sending you a survey post this. If you don't mind, it takes 2 or 3 minutes. It's really simple. It's like 8 or 10 questions. Most of them are like radio buttons. It really does help us know whether we're on the right track or not, or the things that you'd like to see us invest more in from an R&D product management perspective. So we'd really appreciate you filling that out. We'll make sure we send that as soon as we're done. Any questions and things that I've already mentioned, email us. But yeah, if you get that survey, would really appreciate a quick answer from you there. Otherwise, I'll be done. I'll stop rambling. Thank you all very, very much. Enjoy Happy 4th if you're in the States. Happy 4th if you're not in the States. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and we will chat soon. So take care, everyone. Have a good one.